Let's put the exhaust back on. Runs so smooth and quiet now. A whole different animal. So I don't have a spot on the farm for them yet. Most of my time has been spent working on the tractor and the new job and you know, all the other logistics around the farm and normal life. And so I just haven't had a chance to clear some space for a spot for these. And I haven't had a chance to really dial in on the land yet and figure out exactly where I want these to be. So rather than plant a tree that's going to be 20 feet tall and be there for the rest of my lifetime, at least from my perspective, rather than do that and then have to try to move trees that are established later, I'm going to bump these up to some pots for now to buy me a little bit more time. And I think by then I can have some space cleared. Because I've got some tomato stakes I got to make up, and I'm going to need to clear some space to cut those tomato stakes. So we'll get two birds stoned at once. Well, it's a gorgeous, hot summer day. It's like 94 degrees, pretty good humidity in the air. It's truly a deep July summer day, and man, it's wonderful. I'm not even really used to the heat yet, but I really do enjoy it.
Yeah, you're reading that right. 96 degrees.
Somebody's got it figured out, huh? You know I'm here to make it happen, don't you? Let's take a look at these potatoes in 96-degree weather. What do you think? So they're looking pretty good. I don't see any real wilting, even in 96-degree weather. Of course, we do have good soil moisture. But nice to see these plants really just growing like crazy. We do have a little bit of white fly or leaf hopper or something here. I'm not sure what those are. But nothing too bad. And they don't seem like they're doing any real damage. So that's nice. I guess we'll take a look at these tomatoes over in the row here, quick. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, they're kind of growing and stuff. Yeah, I gotta get some stakes up here ASAP. So, time to get busy. So since it is a 96-degree day and sunny, we'll just have a look at this in fleur on a super hot day. And I think what you'll notice right away is that the leaf temperature of those plants is a lot lower than everything around it. But that soil temperature is pretty high in direct sunlight, isn't it? Look at that. Look at the temperature of that uncovered soil. 136 degrees uncovered. 136 degrees. Like, that's close to 140, you know, that we cook meat at, right? To kill bacteria, to kill biology. So this is why you have to cover your soil, people. Because all this topsoil is being exposed to that intense ultraviolet light and heat. And that's killing the microbial community on top. Now down in the soil there's a community going on, but we'd like to protect that and extend that community right to the soil surface. And that's what mulches are about. So that's another reason I gotta get the brush hog running. Alright, got her started back up and running again. Seems to run pretty smooth. Tweaked the carburetor a little bit. When I shut off, the carburetor leaks all over, so I think I got some dirt or something in there in that clean out. So at some point I'm going to pull that carburetor off and clean it out. But that's not today. I got the Ford down here. I cut a pass up by the trailer up there. And judging by that, I think I can run a cut down here without doing too much plant damage and actually disturb the reeds here. So I'm going to make a try at it. We'll see. Might require adjusting the rollers a little higher. That's kind of a pain in the butt. Well, all in all, I'd say that worked pretty well. Minimal plant damage, if any. Just basically bent them over and cut that soil up enough at least to break up that weed profile a bit. I'm not at all unhappy with the results of that for a first try. to make a pass at this second row and see how we do. I don't know, we'll see. I would say that's pretty successful. That's getting a cut between the rows, knocking out the weeds that are trying to get established and not doing too much damage to potato plants. There's a couple I clipped here and there, but I'll just go back and set them back in. And overall, we didn't do much damage, so I like that. We'll make one more pass up that third row. I don't know, maybe I can even pull a swing pass through the tomato row gently. Might be worth a try. This is the only spot where I see a couple that I yanked out. Everything else seems solid. And I really got to do that float. But yeah, only a couple. Not too bad. Where'd that come out of? Here, I guess. Yeah, here. So that's a shame that we wiped out a plant there. And actually, I think these will catch again. They'll be okay. Because we're catching them before the roots can be exposed to the sun too long and really die back. And we're towards evening here, so it's going to cool off shortly. So I have to say, I have absolutely no complaints with how that worked out. I mean, I would like to get a few more weeds closer to these plants, but honestly, that's a pretty good pass for knocking out weed pressures for a first pass. And if I can get back here and get some brush hogging and some mulch down around these plants, or even hand cultivate right around the edges, we got a major advantage over the weed pressures. And we don't have to use any chemicals or sprays or pesticides or any of that crap. We don't have to poison the food that we're planning on eating and serving to others later. Isn't that kind of important? Doesn't someone else think that's kind of important? Not to be poisoned when you eat? Because I do. I think that's super important. All right, I'm off my soapbox. Even the tomato row came out good. Knocked them over a little bit. If you know anything about the tomatoes I grow, that isn't even a dent in their day. September 15th, 2017. Well, I just wanted to show you a quick clip of the popcorn developing, the Dakota Black popcorn. Notice how these ears turn that beautiful purple, almost black color as they ripen. It's coming on strong. Gonna have lots of popcorn this year, barring any frost or major catastrophes, of course. But the real reason I brought you out here was to show you what happens when you improve nutrition and don't back it up with even heavier duty infrastructure. I know the sun's kind of not in my favor on this shot, but if you look, you can see that I was unable to get out here and harvest all the fruit off because I've been, oh God, so overloaded, busy. And by the time I got out here and started harvesting, even this post, which by the way is 4-inch diameter maple, and it's set about 18 inches in the ground, basically couldn't hold the weight anymore from the fruit load that's on it. And you can see there are lots of ripe fruit, ripening fruit, and there are still more flowers coming on. And so it collapsed. I definitely would not put these as close to the tomatoes. In fact, I'd probably put them in a separate lot. I really need them to get the sun all day long, and I just didn't foresee these tomatoes growing to 8+ vertical feet. So even though I'm aware of what high mineral nutrition and that sort of thing can do for plants, I didn't realize just how big and crazy they were going to get. And I'll just show you a shot of a stem here of one of these plants. And that stem's about 3/4 of an inch in diameter coming out of the ground there. And you can see it just splits off into multiple directions. So yeah, powerful stuff. Lots of aromas ripening, and yeah, you know, I'm sorry I'm a little distracted. I have a million things to do today, but I didn't want to miss getting a shot of that before I do the repair, so that people get a better idea of just how much productivity and fruit load you'll get when you do it right. And I'm not entirely doing it right. You know, I'm maybe 60 or 70% of the genetic capacity of those plants. So in the future, I expect probably double that yield again. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. It depends on how well I'm able to tune myself in on nutrition. I really just wanted to show, while we still had the light,
the tremendous fruit load that is on these plants, and you know, every type of tomato here. These are the crimson beefsteaks. We had a little bit of uneven rain action this year. We had a dry spell and then we had rain again, so we're getting some splitting and cracking on some of them. But since that rain spell has let up and things have dried out again, we're starting to get some nice nice ones that aren't cracked. Definitely throws another vote in the direction of putting up a big high tunnel and being able to control the amount of irrigation. Just take you for a quick roll along them, and you can see that even though I did all that repair work, I still got a lot of work ahead of me, because I got to harvest all these and find a market for them. I'm already overloading my current markets on cherry tomatoes, so I'm going to have to add someone else who would like some. Maybe I'll contact the Culinary Institute. Anyway, just want to give a quick show of what happens when you get critical points of influence right, and complete trace mineral and hormonal nutritional support, and when you realize what nutrient deficiencies are and you start to understand how to address them, what you can do with foliar feeds to address them.
I'm looking at those tomatoes. That was 2017, and it's improved a lot since then. It'll improve again this year and again next year. But I just want to say very briefly that despite the fact that those tomatoes are way, way above most people's tomatoes, they are still not at their full genetic potential, not even close. And it's evident through the nutritional deficiencies that you can see and observe visually on the plants. You can see potassium deficiencies, and you can see those leaves dying back from blight and lack of mineral nutrition. So despite the fact that those plants are doing really, really, really well, they're not doing as well as they could be. And I did not keep up with that season as well as I should have. And this is another reason why we should be plant sap testing. Because when we plant sap test, we can analyze exactly where we're at and adjust and calibrate and stay right on point. So I didn't want to let that point go by. I don't want anybody to think that that was the end-all be-all. It can get much better than that. That's just pretty darn good.
Hi folks, Carlton from the Pharmacy Seeds Network here. I wanted to talk about plant sap analysis today. I talk a lot about building soils, regenerative agriculture, organic versus standard, organic versus certified organic, and a lot of the issues and problems that we have with the current agricultural system. A lot of the certified organic stuff doesn't require testing of the produce. It only requires certain parameters be filled. Like, for example, you can't spray chemicals for 3 years on a piece of land, and then you can get certified organic on it. And the reality is those chemicals have much longer half-lives. Anyway, I don't want to get off all into a whole bunch of other stuff right now. This video is about plant sap analysis. All that information that I was just discussing really brings me back to we need to be doing testing on our plants, on our soils, and really verify what our quality is, what our nutrition is, and verify when we have deficiencies and address them and correct them. And so that's what this video is about. I had a plant sap analysis done on these beefsteak tomatoes here. See if I can show you those. I'm not used to working with the camera in reverse. Anyway, I had a plant sap analysis done. I took a plant sap sample and I sent it into Advancing Eco Agriculture. They sent it to the lab in the Netherlands to be analyzed. And I got those plant sap analysis results back, and I want to go over those with you. But I just want to discuss a few things before we did that, and really it comes down to using good testing. You can do plant mineral assays, which is a dried plant matter test, but that doesn't yield the same results, and it isn't as accurate. So that's why we use plant sap testing. Now that said, on a scale as small as I am, I would not recommend you use plant sap testing if you're doing it for economic reasons, because John Kemp from AEA says any crop under $5,000, the plant sap analysis with corrections isn't going to be enough to compensate for that financial loss that you spent on plant sap. So I'll just say it, the plant sap test cost about $65, so it's not an inexpensive test to do. But I wanted to do it to better understand my growing practices, how well my foliar feeds are targeted, and to adjust those foliar feeds and make them better for next year. Really, plant sap analysis tests should be done every 2 weeks, and then that gives you a way to calibrate where you were, where you are, where you're going, and whether or not what you're doing has an effect. Obviously, I don't have the budget to do this every 2 weeks. I just wanted to have a better understanding here. So I spoke with Nathan from AEA on Friday, and we went over my plant sap analysis test, and I got a lot of excellent information out of that. I'm going to do a foliar feed. I don't know if I'll get to it tonight. We're supposed to have rain coming tomorrow, so I may hold off till Tuesday for this, which is a little late. I should have done my foliar feed Friday, but I didn't get to it. It's been a crazy week. Anyway, what we're going to do now is go inside. I'll pull up that plant sap analysis test, and we'll go over it in a little more detail. I hope you find this interesting, and I hope this helps someone. Okay, so the earlier part of this video was filmed.
So that's awesome. That gives us a massive gain over weeds for this part of the season. Let's see, it's July 9th today. So we're over 30 days into our crop for potatoes, 30 out of 90. We're a third of the way through the season and holding down a win so far. So that's good. And I got the Ford running like a champ. So much more power with the head gasket on it. Still running 93 octane because why not? Let's give her the good juice. And then that worked out. I got to go drop this attachment now and get ready to pick up. Oh, see, there's that stuck float again. Gotta shut her off. Right, so I mentioned the brush hog, and back in June when I unhooked it, this I forget what this is called, slip adapter or something like that, broke out of here. Sleeve adapter, that's what it is. So I have to get a new sleeve adapter. So I'm going to see if I can find something up at Tractor Supply. And I guess maybe I'll grab a measuring tape and take a measurement of this. And I'll take these few spline pieces. Let's see if we can match something up to similar thickness at least. Hopefully they'll have what we need. And then I can do some brush hogging here and get this mowed back clean again. A, to make it look nice and hold back weeds and seeds, weed seeds. And B, to chop some mulch so I can get some mulch on these crops and protect those soils better. Hopefully we get to that this year. We might get some thunder bangers, huh? Alright, so the figs blew up from the foliar feed they had about a week ago. I'll throw a clip in from 8 days ago so you can see the growth difference. Quick check up on the figs here. Lots of new leaf growth perking on these. They're going to be ready to go in the ground pretty soon here. And with all the stuff of getting ahead on the tractor and taking care of the existing crops that are planted, I haven't had time to clear any more space or do any more planting work to figure out exactly where these guys are going yet. So in the interim, they need to go into more soil. They're getting crammed in this planter. So I'm going to bump them up to 6-inch pots for now. That'll buy me a couple of weeks to figure out where they're going and clear some space for them. So I'll try and get a shot of taking the planter out of the planter, just so you can see the root ball and see it come out as it comes out. I think these are going to be pretty tightly packed together, and in fact, it's hard to find a spot to even get my fingers between the plants. It's probably going to make a bit of a mess. But, you know, we got to do what we got to do to get the job done, right? So there you go. Look at all that root mass that's happening in there already. Now that we got the planter pot out of the way, we can actually see how many fig trees are actually packed into this little space. Like I said, this was just a short-term propagation technique, so we could make a lot of trees really fast in a really small space. But each of these trees is supposed to have room for at least 20 foot vertical, and they have a span of 20 foot, so they can send branches out up to 20 feet. So we're going to need a lot more room than we have here. So let's break these apart as gently as we can. We'll break these out of their individual root ball pieces, and we'll carry them over with as much of the existing root intact as we can. You see how I'm just gently, I guess I'll show you over here, how I'm just gently breaking apart the space between them without a whole lot of stress, and I'm kind of letting them separate themselves. And you see how as I do that, they kind of fall out with a good chunk of root ball and soil with them. So we want to take as much of that without damage over to our new planter and put it in. And you look at how fast these roots are growing, that tells us a lot about how much time we actually have, even when these go into those 6-inch planters. We really only have a couple of weeks before we start root bounding again. And we don't want to do that to new cuttings, new trees. All right, so I'm going to stick these into planters. There's our first one in. And I'm just going to wrap these out because I got to get back to the farm and get a bunch more. I guess real quick, like, I'll just give you a shot at the one that fell out of the soil mostly. You can see how much root has developed at the base of that cutting. Again, these were just 6 to 8 inch woody cuttings taken back in the spring. They were layered into sand and allowed to basically germinate roots for a month or something like that. And as soon as I started to see them throwing off a little bit of root when I was digging out of the sand, I brought them out and put them into this rich organic soil. This is a good KISS amended mix. KISS as in KISS Organics for nutrient. And that's all there is to it. They're cranking, and I guess lots right now for even this little one. There's so very little root mass showing on it. It's throwing out leaves, and it looks like it'll survive and thrive. So size doesn't necessarily matter in this case. Here's one that really took off well, and you can see it's thrown quite a bit of leaf leaders out already, and it's got quite an extensive root ball on it. Better if we can avoid damage. So that's why we'll go right into some nice soft soil like that, gently on top of the soil, and then I'll just fill in along the content of it. So you got, okay, and this one completely fell out of the soil, but again, you can see the strong root growth down there. And that's what we like to see. That's indicative. It's indicative of a healthy, happy plant, or the start of a healthy. Now we're down to a last few. And every single one of these that I propagated took, except for just this one guy here. It didn't make it.
Well, what I was trying to say there when the audio went all crappy on me was that I usually only get about 50% propagation rate on scion cuttings. Those are clone cuttings, what people usually refer to commonly as clone cuttings in the cannabis industry or cannabis world. They're basically scion cuttings, where you take a live cutting of a plant and you root it. It's called a scion cutting. And like I said, I usually only get about 50% when I do that. These are basically scion cuttings. They were hardwood scion cuttings, and we got like 90-some% success rate. Nearly 100% success rate, and that is unheard of in normal scion cuttings typically, unless you really get everything dialed in right, and you take the plant cuttings at just the right time, and you keep the environment right and the nutrients right. If you get it really tuned in, sometimes you can pull off 80 or 90%, but this is awesome. This is close to 100%, and this makes me want to propagate a bunch more fig cuttings. All right, well, I just thought I'd give you an explanation of that with a little bit better audio. I don't know what happened with the audio on that yesterday. When I went to edit that, all those pieces, all those shots that I took on the figs had that crappy audio on them. There wasn't a wind, there wasn't a breeze. I don't know if the phone just overheated or glitched out or what, but very frustrating when I go back to edit. And I go through all the trouble to try to make clean audio and clean video for you. And Google screws it up. Okay, so this is a 15-inch diameter pot. So that means we have like 1.08 square feet roughly in surface area on the top of this pot. And from that 1.08 square feet or whatever, I must have lost a few on the way through, but we ended up with 20 good cuttings out of this. And I think I took 22 or 23 back a month ago. So I probably missed one digging them out, and then that one died and everything else survived. So from a little over 1 square foot in 2 months, we can produce 20 fig trees for starters. And those 20 fig trees will each need 20 foot of space in the row out in the field. So that's how efficient we can be in the lab or even out here in the backyard if we know what we're doing and we know how to propagate things efficiently. All right, so I guess that about wraps it up. 20 plants from about 1 square foot a pot in about 2 months. Headed back to the farm. Got a bunch of work to do. Tomato steaks, and might pull the carb on the Ford. But man, what a gorgeous summer evening. Right, so I know the light is horrible on the Google Pixel for nighttime video. But I just wanted to show these plants have perked back up already right away. It was like 4 o'clock when I did this, or 4:30. And it's like just about 9 o'clock now. And if you recall, well, you'll see in the video how they were laid over. You'll see they've stood right back up already. On the edges of the rows here, a lot of these weed pressures that were starting to get going, the smaller weeds. And it doesn't look like we did much, right? But if you look up here in the row, you can see all these little weeds starting up. All of those got wiped out in these rows in between. And I can tell you, from having weeded that kind of stuff by hand myself, an hour or less out here on a machine to do that is a whole lot of work. That's several days of work saved. All right, so I took the carb off. I'm not planning on doing a full rebuild. I just want to clean out the float and hopefully get the float a little more functional. But you can see there's a bit of water was sitting down in there, and some rust and some gunk and some dirt. So I'm going to flush that out, and I'm going to flush the float out, and just try and get it back a little more functional again. And then I'm going to reassemble it and hope that does the job. If not, I'll get a full rebuild kit and I'll do a full rebuild at some point. I mean, she still runs. I just want her to run a little smoother and for the float not to stick and just leak all over when it stops. All right, I got it apart. I got the float off. There's the float. The needle valve out. I think there was just a little bit of debris clogged in there from that. Don't mind the bug swats. Debris clogged in there from having the line off, and some dirt got in the line and putting it back on. I think got the dirt down in there. And then there was some sludge down in the bowl there from many years of sitting, and some moisture buildup and such. But I feel like that's a decent clean out. I'm going to put it back together, and hopefully it'll run nice and smooth now. If not, we'll give it a rebuild. So I just used a bed former on a section down by the Ginger to see how our power is under load. And I came up that steep hill on the north end of the property, and second, throttle set pretty low. Didn't even have to try now. So we got our horsepower back. I'll bet this thing cuts a lot better with brush hog on now too. Huge, huge power difference. That's what we needed. Now about those tomato steaks. All right, so we looked at the potatoes earlier today in that high temperature heat, and I'll give you the comparison with nighttime temps. Probably 10, 10:30, that's probably closer to 11 now actually. But huge difference in soil temperature here now, huh? Sitting around 80, 82 in that range. We were at 126 earlier today, I think, in direct sunlight. Just thought I would get another clip with thermal and give you a little tour of the tractor running in thermal. See all the cold bugs? Some crazy heavy thunderstorm and wind fronts moving from the southeast to the northwest. Looks like most of them will avoid us. But I wanted to get a shot of that line moving across and give you a shot of these beautiful horses hanging out. Tell me those horses aren't living the life. No damage at any of that work. We have some gains, and I think I might have to make even yet another pass or two here to get the rest of the weeds knocked out. I don't know if I'm going to do that tonight. I got to get some tomato steaks done. I've been putting this off for too long, or trying to get to it for too long. All right, quick check up here on the upper block section with the ginger, turmeric, tomatoes, etc. Thought I would check in on this tarragon. It's struggling getting established. But I think looking at the greens growing back from the rootstock, that we did okay. It definitely took some shock in that hot weather. I probably should have waited till we had a little better conditions, but I still don't want to screw around with it anymore. So there it is. Ginger is starting to throw out the new shoots again finally. Tomatoes are really cranking, and that's what I'm going to try and get done tonight. Some tomato steaks. I won't get 150 out tonight, I don't think. I'm going to try and get a bunch done. This holy basil is just blowing up. Just absolutely blowing up. And I gotta remember to take some of this home with me tonight because it's phenomenal. And let's see. I guess I'll give you a shot of the other tomatoes on the other side. And then I gotta get busy. So there's the cherries. Yeah, and we can see we're forming flowers and tomatoes already. So growth is not an issue. And then I believe these are a beefsteak type tomato. Makes sense, they have a beefsteak type tomato structure. So they're growing really well also. We've had some awesome timely rains, good sun. We've had some awesome growing weather this year. I'm very grateful for that. In a dry year, this would be a much tougher operation with no irrigation. We can do it, but it ain't as easy. So that one pepper plant that got chewed off is still trying to come back. This is a King Arthur. And I think there might be a couple more in here that... Yeah, there's one. So there's a few that have survived the deer or rabbits or whatever. Maybe they'll make a comeback. I guess I'll just give you a quick clip of where I did a test run last night. Cannot talk today. Where I did a test run last night with the Ford just to see how it handles under workload and all. And I didn't do any disking here at all. I just bed cut. And it worked great. Lots of power. Can't you just plant without fencing? Why not? Why not? Yeah, that's why not. Right, Mama? What are you doing? These are my crops. You can graze any other field but mine. Yeah, run! So I was looking at those weeds, and I really felt like I needed to get another pass in here. So I made a pass before any adjustments, and we're just going too low to the plants, and like, I can clear the plants, but to get any more cut depth, I start tearing into them, or getting down to where I'm going to start yanking them out like those couple the other day. We can't do that. So I decided to adjust the bed former. It's actually out of adjustment for forming beds like I like to do. But what it does is raise that tail high enough that we miss the plants now. And so then I can use the cutters to clear out weeds and to form soil up around the potatoes and kind of hill up them around a little more. I don't know how much more hill we'll get out of it, but at least we can cut those weeds out of there a little more effectively without damaging plants. So that's working out. I'm going to finish that before... Everybody's excited, kicking it up.